Welcome back the rare and valuable coins today. We're diving deep into the world of silver Washington quarter dollars. But not just any quarters, we're talking about the ones that sold for thousands of dollars at auction, so let's get started first. Up the 1998 USA Washington quarter. Dollar with a large date, and the D Mint mark was struck at the Denver Mint and represents the last full year of the classic eagle reverse design. Before the 50-state quarters program began in 1999. While many people call quarters silver, the regular circulation quarters from 1998 were actually made of copper and nickel, not 90% silver like quarters minted before 1965, the only genuine silver. 1998 quarters were special collector's pieces known as silver-proof quarters, which were made of 90% silver and sold directly by the U.S. Mint in proof sets. These silver proofs are rarely found in everyday circulation unless accidentally spent. The obverse of the coin features the portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan in 1932. The word Liberty is inscribed above Washington's head. In God We Trust appears to the left, and the date 1998 is positioned below the bust. To the right of Washington's ponytail is the D Mint mark, showing it was struck in Denver, Colorado. The reverse side displays the heraldic eagle with wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath. Above the eagle are the words United States of America and E pluribus unum, while the denomination quarter dollar curves along the bottom. This design, used since 1932, would soon be replaced by the rotating designs of the state quarter program. The coin in question is described as being in full damage condition with noticeable scratches. In numismatics, condition plays a major role in determining a coin's value. Damage can include deep scratches, heavy wear, corrosion, dents, bending, or discoloration, all of which greatly reduce collector interest. Coins are graded on a scale from poor, which is barely recognizable, up to mint state, which has no signs of wear. A damaged coin falls far below collectible grade unless it has an unusual minting error or is made from a precious metal. For a standard 1998D clad quarter, the value in average circulated condition is its face value of 25 cents. Even in higher mint state grades without damage, the coin might sell for only 50 cents to a few dollars. With significant damage, its value is essentially limited to what it can be spent for. However, if it turns out to be one of the silver proof quarters, it could have value based on its silver content. A 90% silver quarter weighs about 6.25 grams compared to 5.67 grams for a clad coin. The edge of a silver quarter is solid silver colored, without the visible copper stripe found on clad coins. Even in damaged condition, a silver proof from 1998 could be worth $3 to $5 for its silver melt value, while an undamaged example might sell for around $10 or more. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of regular 1998 D quarters, so they are not scarce. Collector interest is generally limited to coins in pristine condition or examples with unusual mint errors. Errors can include double die strikes, off-center strikes, clipped planchettes, or coins struck on the wrong metal. Depending on rarity and visibility, such errors can be worth anywhere from a few dollars to several $100s, but they are uncommon. Even though a heavily damaged 1998D quarter might not have high monetary value, it still holds historical interest. It belongs to the final production year of the long-running eagle reverse design, which had been a familiar sight for over 6 decades. The following year, the new state quarter designs generated significant excitement and attracted millions of new collectors, changing the face of U.S. coin collecting. Damaged coins like this one can still have educational value, especially for new collectors learning to identify mint marks, study design details, or understand the effect of wear on value. It can also serve as a placeholder in a collection until a higher grade example is found. While cleaning coins is generally discouraged because it can cause further damage and lower value, Coins already in poor condition are sometimes used to. Practice cleaning or preservation techniques without risking significant loss in the current market. A damaged-clad 1998 quarter is worth its face value. If it is confirmed as a silver-proof coin, its value would be tied to the current silver price and could be several times higher than face value, even in poor condition. Collectors typically focus on rarity, metal content, and condition. So without these factors, a coin's value remains low. Still, every coin tells a story, and this 1998D Washington quarter represents the end of an era in American coinage. Next up, the 1969 USA Washington quarter. Dollar with a large date, and the D Mint mark was struck at the Denver Mint during a time when U.S. quarters were no longer made from 90% silver for general circulation. Starting in 1965, the U.S. Mint switched to a clad composition of copper and nickel because of rising silver prices and the need to conserve precious metals for other uses. This means that a regular 1969D quarter is composed of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. However, some special proof coins, not minted in Denver, were still struck in silver for collectors, but these were made in San Francisco with an S Mint mark, not a D. If a 1969D quarter were somehow struck on a silver planchette by mistake, it would be an extremely rare mint error and highly valuable. The obverse of the coin carries the familiar bust of George Washington designed by John Flanagan in 1932. Above the portrait is the word Liberty, while In God We Trust is positioned. To the left, the date 1969 sits beneath Washington's chin, and the D Mint mark can be found just to the right of the ribbon in his hair, signifying its origin from the Denver Mint. The reverse features the heraldic eagle with wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below. Around the eagle are the inscriptions United States of America at the top and quarter dollar at the bottom, with E pluribus unum in smaller lettering above the eagle's head. This design had been a mainstay on U.S. quarters since the early 1930s and would remain until 1998. This particular coin is described as being in uncirculated condition, but with some scratches. In numismatic grading, uncirculated refers to a coin that has never been used in commerce and shows no wear from circulation. However, it can still have marks, scuffs, or scratches from the minting process, handling during packaging, or storage over the years. Such imperfections can slightly reduce its appeal to collectors, but it still ranks much higher in desirability than a circulated example. Mint state coins are graded on a scale from MS60 to MS70, with MS70 representing a flawless coin. Light scratches or contact marks typically place an uncirculated coin somewhere in the MS62 MS65 range, depending on severity. In terms of mintage, the Denver Mint produced over 114 million Washington quarters in 1969, so they are not rare in general. Circulation form. However, finding a true mint state example that has been well preserved for more than 50 years is far less common, especially with minimal bag marks or surface damage. For a clad 1969D quarter in lower mint state grades, the value might range from $1 to $5. Coins graded MS66 or higher can fetch significantly more, sometimes between $20 and $50 or more, depending on demand and eye appeal. The situation changes entirely. If the coin is somehow confirmed to be struck on a silver planchette, such an error could only have happened if a leftover 90% silver blank from before 1965 was accidentally used at the Denver Mint, which is extremely unlikely but not impossible. These rare transitional errors can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on condition and silver purity verification. Testing the coin's weight is a good first step. a silver quarter weighs about 6.25 grams, while the copper-nickel-clad version weighs about 5.67 grams. Additionally, a silver quarter's edge will appear solid silver without the visible copper stripe that is seen on clad coins. For most collectors, a 1960 9D quarter in uncirculated condition is an appealing piece of pocket change history. Even without silver content, its value lies not only in its grade, but also in its role as a preserved example from the late 1960s. When the U.S. coinage system was still adjusting to the removal of silver from circulating coins. Although millions were minted, the survival of pristine examples is much lower because most coins quickly entered everyday commerce, where they accumulated in today's market. A typical uncirculated 1969D Washington quarter with some scratches would likely sell for a modest premium above face value, often in the range of $1 to $3 for common mint state grades. Exceptional pieces with few marks and strong luster could bring higher prices from dedicated Washington quarter collectors. While it might not be a high-value rarity, it still represents over half a century of history and craftsmanship. Preserving such coins carefully, preferably in a protective holder, will ensure they maintain their condition for years to come. Even a coin with minor flaws can be an attractive part of a collection, a conversation piece, and a tangible link to an important era in U.S. coinage history. Next up, the 1983 USA Washington quarter dollar with a large date in P. Mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a period when circulating quarters were made from copper-nickel clad rather than silver. By 1983, the U.S. Mint had been producing clad coinage for nearly 2 decades. Following the removal of silver from general circulation coins in 1965, regular circulation quarters from this time were composed of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel, bonded to a pure copper core. The P Mint mark, which denotes the Philadelphia Mint, appears on the obverse side of the coin just to the right of George Washington's ponytail ribbon. It is worth noting that no 1983 quarters were made from 90% silver for circulation. However, certain special collector's issues made in San Francisco carried the S Mint mark and proof finish, and those intended for silver content were not struck in Philadelphia. On the obverse of the 1983 P Washington quarter is the familiar profile of George Washington. Designed by John Flanagan in 1932, the word Liberty arches above Washington's head, and the motto "In God We Trust" is inscribed to the left of his portrait. The date 1983 sits prominently beneath the bust, with the P Mint mark close to the ribbon in his hair. On the reverse is the long-standing heraldic eagle design, also by Flanagan, showing the eagle with its wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows and flanked by olive branches. The inscriptions "United States of America" appear along the upper rim. E pluribus unum rests above the eagle's head, and quarter dollar spans the lower rim. This reverse design had been in use since 1932 and would remain unchanged until the start of the state quarters program in 1999. The described coin is in fine condition with some scratches. In numismatic grading, fine typically means the coin has seen moderate circulation, with considerable wear on high points of the design, but still retaining clear major details. For Washington quarters, a fine-grade coin will show worn hair. Details on Washington's portrait, a flattened eagle's breast on the reverse, and generally smoother surfaces overall. The scratches mentioned could be the result of circulation or handling over the decades. And while they do not necessarily affect the authenticity of the coin, they can reduce its collector appeal. The 1983 P Washington quarter holds some special interest among collectors because no official U.S. mint sets were produced for that year. This gap means that high-quality examples from 1983 are harder to find. As the majority of coins went directly into circulation and accumulated wear, many collectors seeking pristine 1983 quarters must search through bankrolls or pay higher prices for uncirculated examples that have been carefully preserved. As a result, while a fine condition coin like this one holds only modest monetary value, mint state pieces can command much more due to their scarcity and high-grade dot. In terms of mintage, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 673 million Washington quarters in 1983, so circulated examples like this are common in quantity. However, finding coins with strong eye appeal and minimal contact marks remains more challenging, especially without access to mint-set coins from that year. This is one of the reasons why the 1983p quarter in mint state grades is a standout among clad quarters for certain series specialists. From a market perspective, a fine condition 1983p quarter will usually be worth its face value of 25 cents unless it has some unusual error or variety. Well-known errors for this year include off-center strikes, doubled dies, and die cracks, which can sell for much more depending on their prominence and demand. Without such an error, the value of a fine-grade example is largely sentimental or as part of a complete day-tanned mint mark set for collectors. Even a lower-grade example like this plays an important role in filling a gap in a Washington quarter collection. Its P-mint mark connects it to the long history of coin production in Philadelphia, the oldest operating mint in the United States. While its clad composition means it does not carry intrinsic silver value, its historical context and the story of the missing 1983 mint set make it an interesting conversation piece. Next up, the 1983 USA Washington quarter dollar with a large date in P. Mint mark was minted at the Philadelphia Mint during a time when quarters for regular circulation were made from a copper-nickel clad composition, not silver. By 1983, the U.S. Mint had been producing these clad quarters for nearly 2 decades. Having removed silver from circulating quarters in 1965, the coin's core is pure copper, while the outer layers are an alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it a silver-colored appearance. The P-mint mark, denoting Philadelphia, is located on the obverse side, just to the right of George Washington's ponytail ribbon. While the coin might be described as silver in appearance, it does not contain actual silver unless it is a special collector's proof from San Francisco with an S mint mark, which this one is not. The obverse features the portrait of George Washington designed by John Flanagan, a design that had been in use since the coin's introduction. In 1932, above Washington's head is the word Liberty, while In God We Trust is positioned to the left of his profile. The date 1983 is displayed beneath the portrait, and the P-mint mark appears nearby. The reverse side carries the long-standing heraldic eagle design, also by Flanagan, which depicts the eagle with wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows, with olive branches below. Encircling the design are the inscriptions United States of America at the top, E pluribus unum above the eagle's head, and quarter dollar along the lower rim. This particular coin is described as being in dirty condition with some scratches, meaning it has clearly seen significant circulation. Dirt and surface grime can accumulate over decades of handling, giving the coin a duller appearance compared to freshly struck examples. The scratches could have been caused by contact with other coins, rough handling, or storage in non-protective environments. While such wear does not diminish the historical nature of the coin, it does reduce its collectible value. As condition is one of the most important factors in numismatics, one interesting historical point about the 1983 Washington quarter is that the U.S. Mint did not produce official, uncirculated mint sets that year. Because of this, collectors cannot rely on government-issued sets to find pristine 1983 examples, and most coins from this year were released directly into circulation. This scarcity of high-grade specimens makes uncirculated 1983 quarters more desirable among Washington quarter specialists. Even though circulated coins like this one remain extremely common, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 673,001,983 quarters, so from a purely numerical standpoint, the coin is abundant. However, coins that have survived without scratches, dirt, or heavy wear are much harder to come by. As a result, while a circulated and dirty coin will typically be worth only its face value of 25 cents, high-grade uncirculated examples can sell for several dollars or more depending on market demand. Certain era varieties from 1983, such as double dies, off-center strikes, and clipped planchettes, can also significantly increase a coin's value, but they must be authenticated and are much less common. From a collector's perspective, even a circulated coin like this still holds significance as part of a complete date and mint mark collection. Its P mint mark connects it to Philadelphia, the oldest operating U.S. mint facility, and its production in a year without mint sets makes it part of an interesting chapter in modern coinage history. While the dirt and scratches tell a story of heavy use, they also reflect the coin's journey through the economy. Perhaps it passed through hundreds of hands, took part in countless small purchases, and remained in active use for years before ending up in a collection. Proper storage from this point forward, such as placing the coin in a protective holder, can prevent further deterioration. While cleaning is generally discouraged in numismatics because it can damage the surface and further reduce value, gentle preservation through proper housing will help maintain its current state. Even if it is not a high-value piece, it remains a tangible artifact of 1980s American coinage, representing a time when the Washington quarter's classic eagle design was still a familiar sight in pockets and cash registers across the country. Next up, the 1967 USA Washington quarter dollar, with a large date and no mint mark, is a notable piece from an important period in American coinage history. While many people casually refer to it as a silver quarter because of its silvery appearance, it is actually not made of silver. By 1965, the United States Mint had removed silver from circulating quarters due to rising silver prices and the cost of producing coins. Instead, these quarters were struck from a copper-nickel clad composition, a pure copper core sandwiched between two outer layers containing 75% copper and 25% nickel. This gave the coin the traditional silver color, but without any precious metal content. The lack of a mint mark is also intentional. Between 1965 and 1967, the U.S. Mint suspended mint marks on all coins, regardless of where they were produced. This policy was meant to discourage hoarding and speculation, as many people had been setting aside coins from different mints in hopes they would become rare. Mint marks returned in 1968, but for coins like the 1967 quarter, there is no way to tell if they were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. On the obverse, the coin features the classic portrait of George Washington created by John Flanagan in 1932. The word Liberty arches above Washington's head. "In God We Trust" is positioned to the left, and the date 1967 appears directly beneath his profile. The reverse design, also by Flanagan, depicts a heraldic eagle with wings spread, clutching a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, symbolizing the nation's readiness for defense and its desire for peace. The inscriptions, United States of America and E Pluribus Unum, are displayed above. With quarter dollar along the bottom, this particular coin is in good condition, meaning it has seen significant time in circulation but still retains its essential design. Details. In this grade, the high points of Washington's hair are worn down, and much of the fine feathered detail on the eagle's wings has softened. The coin also has some scratches, which are typical of coins that have passed through countless transactions. Over decades, While these marks lower the collectible value for some buyers, they also tell the story of the coin's journey through everyday commerce. In terms of production, 1967 was a very high mintage year. The U.S. Mint struck over 1.5 billion Washington quarters, so most examples found today are considered common. As a result, circulated coins like this one typically hold a value of around their face value of 25 cents. Although particularly nice examples with sharp details or uncirculated coins can bring in slightly higher prices from collectors another. Important note for this year is that no proof sets or traditional mint sets were issued. Instead, the Mint released Special Mint Sets SMS, which featured coins with better-than-average strikes and a satin-like finish. These SMS coins are sought after by collectors, but can be easily distinguished from standard circulation strikes. Although the 1967 quarter in good condition with some scratches is not rare or highly valuable, it still holds historical appeal. It represents a time of major changes in U.S. coinage, not only in composition, but also in minting policies. For collectors, such a coin serves as a tangible reminder of the shift from precious metal to clad coinage and the efforts of the mint to manage the nation's coin supply during a turbulent economic period. If properly stored in a protective holder to prevent further wear, it can remain a preserved piece of history. While its monetary value may be modest, its historical and educational value make it a worthy addition to a collection that tells the story of American currency through the decades.